Hello, what's going on, everybody? It is the Wrestling Mat. I'm Matt Camp. What's up? There it is, WrestlingMatShow.com. Hey. What's going on? Apologies for not being around yesterday, as I put out. Had some last-minute travel to take care of. I am back, and because it's going to be a short week, there will be no show tomorrow because of the holiday. Rest of the week we'll be back on, I guess, Monday, right? Yeah. A lot going on with American Thanksgiving. Hopefully everybody is getting ready to enjoy that. But I wanted to make sure I got back on here before the break. I'll be traveling more tomorrow for the holiday. But, I thought about doing a Raw React show, coming off of Full Gear, going into Survivor Series. And I'm sure we'll get to that. But I was kind of thinking about what has clicked. I'm sure people are going to be having a lot of discussions about a lot of things at Thanksgiving. And I'm sure as you talk sports with different members of your family that I've been talked to maybe, and you're going to see them for Thanksgiving, I feel like Jake Paul and Mike Tyson are going to come up. And for, kids that are at parties or whatever, or kids that are at birthdays or kids that are at Thanksgiving, I saw some people saying, I didn't care about anything. I haven't paid attention to wrestling, but heard the Rizzler was going to be at AEW and my kids went nuts. And, people know who the Costco guys are, and that brought new eyeballs. And I was like, man, that happened in back-to-back weeks. In back-to-back weeks, combat sports. And I never tying in UFC and boxing with WWE or AEW or pro wrestling as a whole. But because it happened in back-to-back weeks, I will. And that's why the title of this episode, and I'm not the only one that's ever said this, is Everything is Wrestling. Because the reason that people paid or made a point to watch or signed up for Netflix or whatever is because they were sold on the story. And I'm not saying anything that's new to pro wrestling or pro wrestling fans. I'm not saying that at all. But I saw people complain after the fact about Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Like prominent sports personalities who have been covering or making their living off of sports and being, talking heads and pontificators and analysts and opinion makers and hot take artists. I saw people like that who I thought could see through it complaining. That's what we got. What did you think it was going to be? Mike Tyson nearly died a few months ago, getting ready for this fight, having a medical episode, which he detailed after. Jake Paul is far younger. He is a great athlete. Like, Father Time waits for no man is a thing. But what were you sold on for that match? You were sold on nothing more than that was a hope. I think for a lot of people, it was the expectation. But if you were being realistic, it was the hope. And the hope was that 1989, 1988, Mike Tyson, for a short period of time in that massive stadium, was going to come back to life and knock out Jake Paul. That's what people were sold on. And you wanted him to knock out Jake Paul because it was Jake Paul's job, as he knows, as his brother knows, maybe they know it a little too well, how to be a heel. It's why Chael Sonnen fought well past his prime in UFC. It's why Conor McGregor, maybe not anymore because he's been exposed for the piece of trash he is. And oh, baby, the people that backed him and have taken no issue with backing him and working for him, despite all of these allegations now it becoming true. I'll see if those people change their tune. But Conor McGregor made his name off these cutting wrestling promos. That's why the episode is called Everything is Wrestling. After the fact, when people bitched and moaned and complained, oh, it was boring. Oh, it was this. It's Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Did you think they were going to trade blows like Rocky and Apollo Creed? If you want to hope that Mike could come out and catch Jake, yeah. But I don't get how people were disappointed. Like, what did you realistically, what did you expect? People were betting on the fight, right? I saw Portnoy say minus 220 is the lock of the year for Jake Paul to win. And he was right. I bet on Mike two different ways. Did I think I was going to win? Nope. I didn't bet much. I think I bet like I picked a couple knockout rounds or something like that. You know why? Because it was fun to root for. And if I lose, no big deal. Now, if you're a sharp, sure, you bet on Jake Paul and you made money off of that. And a lot of people did. But the fact that line moved around as much as it did, and while it moved more in the direction of Jake Paul being a favorite closer to the fight, they made a lot of money on people wanting to see Mike Tyson knock Jake Paul out. From the people like me who just were rooting for it and realistically probably didn't think it was going to happen. But then from the people who were like, I want to root for this and it's going to happen. I'm going to. Guess what? DraftKings make money off of those people because they wanted it to happen. The morbid curiosity of seeing Mike Tyson fight again, the morbid curiosity of could he knock this loudmouth piece of trash out? Could we get what we want? The bad guy to get shut up. The bad guy to get shut down. That's pro wrestling. That's what this was built on. This is Jake Taylor limping up to go hit for the Indians in Major League One. This is hell. There's an element of watching Joe Flacco last year in the playoffs for the Cleveland Browns. Not as old, but like, hey, he still could do it. There's been golfers who have pulled this out on majors. Wow, this guy's on the Champions Tour now, but he's making a run. How cool would this be if it happened? There is a nostalgia factor to that, which is also, as we know, a big part of pro wrestling. Look how WrestleMania ended. That was about that. And it got people talking. And we've seen Rock twice since then. Seen Cena once since then. Doesn't matter. You got it for the moment. People wanted to be transported back to Mike Tyson, the killer boxer. And they did a great job selling that. And then people after the fact, I can't believe we were led to believe. We weren't led to believe anything. You believed it. You were sold. You can call wrestling a carny business. Sometimes it is, but that's the idea. Sell you on something. Get you to reach into your pocket and pay money for what we are selling. And they were not selling a boxing match. They were selling an entertainment spectacle. I think they did that. To get 60 million people, buffering or not, to tune into that. 60 million. Sure, they have Netflix access. But that many people were like, I got to watch this. Whether they had Netflix, whether they went to somebody's, whatever. 60 million accounts, I guess, were tuned in. That's the number, right? So I watched it with my wife. People watched it in groups. Way more than 60 million people saw that fight. But you know what happens? Boxing doesn't draw. Professional boxers don't draw that number. Professional sports doesn't draw that number. With athletes who are paid millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to be the absolute best in their field, in their sport. And other than the Super Bowl, they don't draw those numbers. But what did? A YouTuber and a guy who used to be great. You were sold the personalities. You bought the personalities. You bought the story. You bought the veteran baby face versus the brash young heel. As simple as it gets. And then people, I can't believe they sold us. No. You can't believe that after watching that fight, that you were so dead wrong about what was going to happen. It's not a skill level thing. Yes, Jake Paul knows what he's doing. No, in his prime, Mike Tyson is not going to lose to Jake Paul. But Mike was far past that. And as you heard from Mike, it was an achievement for himself to get in there and do that. And what did Jake Paul say after? Hey, I didn't want to knock him out because nobody had to get hurt there. It wasn't a work, but he certainly knew when he was in control, hey, we got their money. And you know what? If this fires up again with somebody else in 3 months, 6 months, it's going to happen again. It continues to happen. People paid money to watch Floyd Mayweather and Paul fight. Was it any good? No. Or McGregor, whatever. Was it any good? No, but it's the spectacle of it. It's why this stuff is drawing. I don't know why people feel like they keep falling for it. Why did it draw? Personalities, story. That could have been a UFC fight. That could have been a boxing match. That could have been Olympic Games, whatever. Grappling. It would have sold because you were selling the personalities. You were selling the idea that Mike Tyson could knock out Jake Paul. That's what that fight was built on. And look how big those personalities are to sell something that, if anybody was really paying attention, was never going to be much of a fight. It's just reality. But anybody in sports or wrestling or whatever can take so many notes from what they did. Why is that drawing bigger than people doing it professionally? Because you care about the personalities. AEW did the QT Marshall, Big Boom AJ, Big Justice, Rizzler, Costco guys feud almost exclusively on social media up until last week. I don't know if people really noticed that. I certainly thought it was an intentional move. It all was built on social media. Why? That's where people are. That's where the Costco guys people are. So yeah, the week of, when you do the weigh-in, which was fantastic, and what happened? Big Justice got in there against QT and cut a fun promo on him and worked the crowd. What happens then? QT drops AJ with a cutter. Everybody's mad. He's got a smile on his face with his nice pearly white teeth he bought. Simple as it gets. They did one bump. They did one bump in the whole lead up to the feud. As simple as it gets, right on his stomach. And people were hyped. And then on Wednesday, last week, they literally just say Rizzler. Do you see the views that thing did? 11 something million, 10 in less than a day. He cut a simple promo, firing people up for the weigh-in, and hey, the Rizzler's going to be there to ring the bell, and the place went nuts. So they show up on Saturday. and they're in the 0 hour thing, and there is buzz. And the promo that was done with the phone was really well done. QT Marshall is hateable. He leaned into the doom stuff. He wants to shut those guys up. They're beloved. They're positive. They're fun. Everybody's behind them. Pretty simple. Guy everybody loves. Guy everybody hates. Put them in a ring together. As black and white as it could be. No one was there to cheer for QT. People who were behind the Costco guys were behind them. People that needed explained to them got it explained to them. That was hilarious. Wow, I can't believe they're doing this crap. So what is it? Do you want them to get, more promotion and viewership, or is it got to be wrestling? You're like, no. It is as well done of a, quote, celebrity angle integration as you're going to do. You could not do better. And they go out there on 0 hour in front of, for both guys, their home state. I think the Costco guys had like hundreds of people in attendance. They were with everything. The Rizzler comes out with Paul White. Massive pop for that. None of this can be denied. You could say, I don't like it. I didn't watch TikTok. None of this can be denied. Just like I say, hey, maybe that Judgment Day love triangle stuff wasn't for me. Every week, million views. Can't deny it. Just not for me. And I know this stuff wasn't for everybody. And typically, no, it is not what you would get from AEW in terms of their match presentation or their build. Pretty damn successful. And those guys laid out a beautiful match. Everybody got a little something to do. They built the pops in. AJ had to fight from underneath. The guy broke his friggin' foot and kept working, adding to his credibility, adding to his stellar reputation. And you got the spear, you got and it was a big pop. It meant nothing in the big picture to QT Marshall or no. He'll be fine. He went out there and did his job. He had a quote the other day, noting how someone's like, oh, I bet Punk didn't want to work QT Marshall. And then he tells the story. Actually, he wanted someone who he could work in his hometown and make him look good. Gee, it's almost like QT Marshall knows what his job is and knows what his role is. It's not to go there and be the world champion, but it's to go there and be the heel that people want to see get shut up and beat up. And he's pretty damn good at it. And I think a lot can be taken from the fact that that match, with the social media buzz that it had, think about that. And QT has done what? On and off TV. And yet, he did enough. They did enough in that story. He was just straight unlikable. He made it very, very, hey, I don't like you. I don't like what you did. I don't like what you represent. I'm going to beat you guys up. I'm going to shut you. Simple stuff. And they do their thing back, and that's it. So for a guy who has had no significant presence on AEW television in months to go out there and be in one of the most heated things that pro wrestling has seen in months. Home run. Everybody did their jobs well. AJ, after the fact, obviously, meeting with people, and he put the post out, I guess it was yesterday, confirming the broken foot. I will be back. I got to recover for 6 to 8 weeks, but I will be back in AEW. It's not the last you saw me in a ring. And everybody I talked to was, I hope they come back. They were a pleasure to have there. As I've said, I've been to some of the shows over the last couple of months. I've seen them there. I've been able to talk to them. They're great. They're humble. I talked to Big Justice. You could see how much fun he's having. And I wondered, you do this stuff all the time and you make the videos and you're traveling. Does it get boring to play the hits? No, that family is embracing it. They're riding it. They're as nice as can be. I'm not saying you have to love their content, but I'll tell you right now, they're very easy to root for and super respectable and respectful. I've enjoyed talking to them every time I have. I like watching a father and son be able to do that. The kid's out there with his hero. getting to be in his corner and getting to celebrate like they did. So what did we get from that? We got a very simple build. Super over babyface. Once again, a veteran. Can he do it anymore? He's got his son by his side. Easily built-in story. Let's throw in a little extra juice with the Rizzler. And then we have the loudmouth heel veteran who, I should have ended your career 20 years ago and blah, 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 blah. Very simple good versus evil story. Massive numbers. People had to see that match. I would tell you to go watch it. AJ throws some great punches. They're all over the place. Not about bumps. Not about big moves. But I will say, unlike Tyson and Paul, AJ and QT delivered on a good match. Was it an unbelievable class? No, but it wasn't supposed to be. It was a very well laid out match that drew the crowd in, that gave AJ his spots early. Then he got beaten down. Then he had to battle back from that. He hit two big moves. He hit a power bomb and a spine buster, and everybody popped huge for both of them. How could you not, across the board in pro wrestling, learn from that? You ideally want the matches to be very good, to be the culmination of a feud or a blow off or whatever it's going to be. You want to get to that level in the pay-per-view. You want to have matches like Claudio and Darby Allin on Dynamite last week where great match, hell of a spectacle, but a spectacle with that press into the tables at ringside played into the entire story. Those guys had 15, 19 minutes. Claudio won. It made sense that he won. It didn't hurt Darby in the slightest. It played into everything that's gone on. It keeps Darby away from Moxley until the end of the show on Saturday night, where Darby came flying in the car, running into them, and that maniacal look on his face. Claudio didn't finish him off. So they had a great match. It told the story. He was supposed to get taken out so he wouldn't be a factor at the pay-per-view, and he almost wasn't. The Continental Classic is starting tomorrow night. Every match automatically matters. Every single one of them. Whether it's the start where everybody's got a chance or later on where you could have a Daniel Garcia kind of role where he beats Brody on the last night and it takes Brody out of contention and Garcia gets a fun win. And then guess what? He wins the TNT title and he goes into the tournament with the most momentum he's ever had and something to build on. 8 people are brand new to this tournament, including the champion. But Garcia, Brody King, Claudio, and Mark Briscoe. 4 names that are back in the tournament this year. But no Moxley, no Danielson, no Eddie Kingston, no Jay Lethal. Look, if you were limited to 12, some big names were not going to be in this thing. No Swerve, no Bobby Lashley. They're doing their own thing. Obviously, Moxley's the world champ. He doesn't need to be in it. Where's Takeshita? Well, he's the international champion. So people were going to get left out. And I like seeing Beast Mortos in it. I like that Shelton Benjamin's in it. I like that Claudio's in it. Kyle Fletcher, and there's some big first-time matchups that are going to come. Every one of these matches, though, as it did last year, immediately matters more because it has stakes. And now the quality of matches, which is never really an issue in AEW, they get to still be there because, hey, if it's where the best wrestle, here's the best tournament we can put on. And Okada's in it, and he's defending his title in there. He beat Eddie for that title back in March. 250-something days now as champion. But he's one of the greatest tournament wrestlers of all time. He's been in 12 G1s. He's a 4-time G1 winner. If he makes it 5, he ties Chono's G1, major tournament record, whatever. And I know there's bigger numbers out there. It's almost a chance to reset Okada without the Bucks, to go out there and be Okada. Be the Okada from New Japan. That was a great tournament wrestler. That is at his best, the best wrestler in the world. Like, he gets to go be that. And now he gets to open the tournament, if I remember correctly, with, I think it's Garcia. I mean, we got some fun stuff to open. It's Ospreay and, no, it's Claudio and Ricochet. It's Brody King and Darby. And it's Okada and Daniel Garcia. No, not Daniel Garcia. I mixed that up. What's the third match? I should know this. It is. Sorry, guys. I've been looking at those brackets so much. Darby and Brody, right? What else we got? Ricochet and Claudio. Oh, and Briscoe and Shelton, which is also fun because they go back to Ring of Honor tag titles like 12, 13 years ago. But everybody now, everybody in this tournament, every one of their matches matters more. There's more juice to it. So you add stakes to it. You look at what SmackDown did last week. The Bloodline looking for the fifth man. Seth said no. You go in there. You've now what? You've shown Roman with a lack of confidence. No, it's not Seth. No, it's not Cody. Okay, cool. What is it then? We can go with 4. All right, we'll go with 4. I'm in. But what's the plan? I don't know. Why doesn't he know? Doesn't have a wise man? Okay, here's the terms of your surrender, which, by the way, when I saw that graphic, I was like, did Vince write this? Because that is such a Vince. Will Roman accept Solo's terms of surrender? It's like, is this World War II? I was surprised it was written that way. It was very Vince-pilled. They go out there, and it's 4 and 5, and blah, blah, blah. And then here comes Heyman. He's got that black jacket with the red shirt. I was like, oh, he's dressed like Solo. Is this too on the nose? And he brings out Punk to a huge pop. Because, once again, that story is like there's a lot of layers. Punk's comments about Roman. Roman's comments about Punk, the needle mover shirt, the history with Heyman. There's so much there. And he's like, I'm doing it for him. There's the stuff with Sammy and the phone. Why was Heyman dressed that way? Yeah, you got to have your beatdowns and segments like that. But it's, they'll have their advantage match this week and all that stuff. I think it's Jay versus Jacob or something like that on SmackDown, tape show. People popped for the idea of Punk teaming with Roman. They want to see it happen. I said this, I'll say it again. The War Games matches are always better in promotion than execution. There are a couple big spots. There are a couple big things that will be gift and replayed. But for the most part, it's kind of a formulaic, intentional, plundery, brawling. You stay down. We got to hit these spots. It's fine. It's about the big spots, whatever the finish is going to be. And there's obviously a lot of drama in this match, and how will that play into it? We're going to see The Rock show up, and does Seth make his presence felt? And is Sammy doing something that's underhanded? And is Heyman with the new group? And it's all based on intrigue. Survivor Series is a one-match show. I think they've done a good job. More so last night on Raw, heating up with a Gunther Priest story. I think it's a tell to have Priest look so strong the last 2 weeks that Gunther's going to win on Saturday. It would be an odd way to take the title off of Gunther if he got, embarrassed last week. Gunther tried to get the jump on him again last night. He gets laid out through the table. They let Priest, that pose with the belt. Man, you look that strong. I don't know. 2 weeks in a row tells me it ain't going to be 3 in a row on Saturday. That's just my pick. I also wouldn't take the title off Gunther, but hey, maybe people think there is something to Priest. I can see the popularity's growing. The that match is more important than it was. Now, you got the IC title thing they heated up, and you got the Women's War Games, which lost Jade, which that was a heavy angle on Friday, which wasn't sold that way initially. It was like, what's Bianca going to do with the tragedy that happened in the back? But it was such a matter-of-fact line. She looked horrible intentionally. She is laid out, legs all splayed, beat up on a car, and they didn't sell it super dangerously or shockingly on commentary because they were still calling. I assume this is why the case was. Bianca bails to go check on her friend. Chelsea and Blair finish the match. Chelsea goes over. Oh, we hope we have an update on Jade when we come back. But so matter of fact, she kind of got beat up in the back. No, it's not that. It's way bigger than that. And then they came back and oh my God, and she's going. And then Corey and Cole changed their tone. And I was like, why wasn't it like this from the jump? It was weird. It almost felt like they got a direction hey, you gotta be a bit more somber about this. And it should be, because it sells the magnitude of Jade being laid out on a car and now being out of action and having to go to the hospital, and who did it. And here's my question. It sounds like she has a real injury. I'm going to guess that those only come about in the last week or two, but a significant enough one to do that angle, to take her out of Survivor Series. Are they going to drop the tag titles now? I don't know. Who's to say it wasn't Bianca? Before the match, and she was just, who knows? And do they need to answer that right now? Did they write this story with the idea of we can revisit it and we can make it work however we want to make it work when Jade's ready to come back? Similar to Stone Cold getting run over at Survivor Series in 99. Well, they had to write him out because of the neck. Well, who did it? No, it was Creasy. Oh, I actually did it for Triple H. Oh, I did it for was it The Rock? Oh, it was a blonde-haired guy. And I think that reveal let people down, even if it came out, gave us I did it for The Rock. I did it for the people. But they used it where they needed to use it. Don't think it was very good in execution, but that's what they did. WWE might have that to use, where they don't have to really hint at who did it, and then later on it's, well, who took her out like that? And you find out who did, and you find out their motivations, and there's Jade's match, whatever. Perhaps it's Charlotte Flair. Think about that. What if it was Charlotte? What if returning Charlotte was trying to take out somebody who had her spot? Jade Charlotte sounds like the right kind of WrestleMania match to me. Charlotte trying to protect her spot, being out of action. Jade being able to maybe take her spot, do much more. There's probably a bit of reality in that too. I'm just spitballing. So C2 starts tomorrow night. I love tournament wrestling. I've always loved tournament wrestling. I love a round robin. I certainly tried. Not that I was high enough up in the world to make any headway on this, but I had an entire G1 pitch in WWE. I thought it could make house shows matter more. I thought if you didn't want to beat someone important in the tournament, in the round robin tournament, you do it on a house show instead. And they did some of that stuff. They did some of those qualifiers, whatever. They did them on house shows for the women a few months back. Was the King Ring qualifier? They did some of that right there. Now you've made the live events matter. You're telling people, and I get it. Look, they'd advertise, oh, Cody's going to defend the title against Solo Sikoa in a cage. Yeah, he ain't going to lose. But if you tell me that stuff that was set up on TV is now going to specifically lead to a match with stakes on a house show, I have more reason to be there. Now, look, I know there are people that go no matter what, and maybe we'll see the IC title change hands, or, maybe Cody will lose to Solo on the main event of a Boise, Idaho house show. That's never going to happen. You're selling based on the names, but my whole thing was you do 6 and 6, right? So everybody's got to have 5 matches, which is what AEW is going to do, I guess, over the next month. WWE does that with Raw, SmackDown, even NXT. You use the house shows. You film the house shows. You show a couple of big moves in the finish. Over the weekend, Kofi Kingston beat Karrion Kross to earn 3 points in his block. I thought it could work. There was a big upset over the weekend. Carmelo Hayes beat, I don't know, Jacob Fatu, something like that. Chad Gable was able to get one over on Sami Zayn in that bracket over the weekend. Oh, okay. And now he's got something to talk about on Raw, and the announcers have something to talk about. You can have updates with the stats and all that, and it's not hard to follow. And I saw people bitching about this last year. Here's what AEW does for the C2. If you win, you get 3 points. If you lose, you earn no points. If you go to a time limit draw, you have 1 point. You will wrestle 5 matches. Whoever has the most points goes to the finals. You face the other block, or in AEW's case, League, blue and gold they have. You face whoever won there. There are tiebreakers. There are, if me and you are tied, but I beat you when we faced 101, I have that. So you have people fighting for something. You have people trying to play spoiler. Daniel Garcia last year, Brody King. Fighting hard in the tournament. Can't win. Finally wins. And if Brody had won, Brody would have, hit the top of his table. Nope. Instead, Garcia wins. So Brody's pissed about that. Garcia gets a nice win. You tell those stories. Mark Briscoe beats Jay Lethal at the end. All right, it's 2 friends who won a battle, and it's that way. You had tiebreakers last year. You ended up with Moxley and Kingston in the final. Eddie got to beat Danielson, and he beat Kingston. Now, another story this year. Eddie won it last year. You know who he lost to, though? Brody King. That's the thing about these tournaments, is that you can set up matches for the future after the tournament's over. If a couple people pin Daniel Garcia, well, he's TNT champion. That right there is an automatic, to me, way to get him a title shot. The G1 has done that for years. When the champions have been in, typically they will lose once, maybe twice, or a draw. And whoever they lose to typically doesn't win the G1, has a strong G1, but then goes, hey, I beat you in the tournament. I lay claim to a title opportunity, a title match. Will Okada run the table? We will see. If Garcia loses, who does he lose to? What does that set up? There are these kind of things in there that they can go to. You can set up other things out of this tournament, but every match has meaning before the tournament even starts. I love tournament wrestling. I love the battle. I love the idea of having to battle through injury. I think there is a story to tell with Daniel Garcia getting hurt in his first match, whoever that's going to be against, and battling through that injury. Or Ospreay coming off of, a very physical battle with Kyle Fletcher. How is he going to have his caliber of matches 5 times? How can he pull that off? How can he be Will Ospreay coming in at less than 100% in a grueling tournament? A lot of the stuff's built in. Who's going to be a standout that maybe we didn't expect? Is it Beast Mortos? Do I think he's going to win his bracket, his league? No, but he's going to get in there with some people he hasn't been in there with yet. And he's going to get a nice spotlight. And you can use the tournament to spotlight people and get them over. Takeshita got that in the G1 this year. He didn't win, but he had a hell of a tournament. And I think that momentum has led to where he's at now in AEW as the international champion. So I look forward to tournaments. I look forward to picking tournaments. I always like that. And you kind of work backwards because that's how you have to book these things. You got to figure out who wins. You got to figure out what the finals are. And then you got to work backwards and you got to figure out, okay, how many points do they score? How do we make these matches at the end matter? All of that stuff it's a lot of math. It's a lot of backwards thinking. When I used to do G1 pick'ems with friends and old podcast listeners, stuff like that, we'd pick the whole tournament, which would be, 10 in each field or 12 or each field. and you'd have to pick every match, and you scored for all that stuff, but to pick it correctly, you would basically go, okay, I think this guy's going to win, and it makes the most sense for him to face this guy. So there's my finalist. Well, how did they get there? They got to be the top scoring points guys in each one of their pools or brackets or blocks or whatever. All right, so I got to now make sure that they win the most match or earn the most points. We work back from there. All right, how do I make these matches at the end, work in a tiebreak or something? Okay, it takes a lot of work to put that together and to book it correctly, and you got to hope for no injuries and all that kind of stuff. So it ain't easy to do, but when it's done well and you don't have any issues with injuries, it's an automatic, I think, built-in way to make all of those people in the tournament matter more than maybe they did. So I look forward to the C2. Look forward to Survivor Series this weekend. I will be doing a Survivor Series preview on Bleacher Report on Friday. Stay tuned for that. But I'll be traveling the rest of the week before that for Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. For those enjoying the Thanksgiving or traveling, be safe, enjoy yourself. I got some good wrestling traditions still, though. Wednesday night with Dynamite, Survivor Series this weekend. Looking forward to all of it. Become a member at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. You got this show early because it's 5 p.m. for everybody who's not a member or on the podcast. Subscribe or get your podcast. But for everybody else, they get it early, like right now. Leave a comment down below. As what do you think? Did you learn something? What did you take from the promotion and the result and the interest in Jake Paul and Mike Tyson and AJ and QT Marshall? What did you take from that? Is everything truly wrestling in that way? And is there something to learn from how well those two matches did when you consider the promotion, the competitors, the lack of, I would say, what would be perceived as top tier people? Jake Paul's a YouTuber. He just has to be a good athlete who has learned to box. Mike Tyson's past his prime. QT Marshall is not someone we see all the time, but was able to get a lot of heat quickly. And then, of course, AJ is the celebrity. He's coming in, yes, with wrestling experience, but he's booked because he's a celebrity. And yet all of that worked, and all of that drew interest. Does it make you look at all that stuff differently? How many people learned from that in the last couple of weeks? Here's a formula that seems to work. Hype goes a long way. As always, I don't ever do this kind of stuff because I always think it's like hokey, but I was just thinking of my travels yesterday and that I'll be busy the rest of the week, but I am thankful for everybody out there who has continued to watch, continued to support, bought a shirt at prowrestlingtees.com/thewrestlingmat, become a member, has sent messages, has been encouraging of me. I don't think you know how much that means and what it's allowed me to do, and I really appreciate that. Opportunities to do this kind of stuff and doors that might open up. I appreciate all of you for that. I was really happy to see over the last week, Tom Green, who runs the WCW Deep Cuts channel, who's just doing such fun, enjoyable wrestling content. He did the AJ Big Justice or AJ QT hype video with My Way in it. And I had messaged him. I said, I put that comment on their show. And he's like, and it did great. And everybody saw it. And then he did My Sacrifice for AJ the last couple of days. Then it comes out that AJ broke his foot. And Tom has gotten so much love for that. And I'll say this because I know the person who put together the original My Way video saw Tom's. I'm going to leave it private after that, but I know because he I had posted it on my Instagram story, and that person follows me, and I know them, and they saw it. So I know the person who did the My Way video, the original one, Limp Bizkit, Austin, and Rock at WrestleMania 17, and I told Tom, I go, the original There's obviously times was like an homage. And I know that's become like a wrestling meme thing of just, hey, it's a rivalry. This was kind of a fun one, but put my way to it because we know that's like the greatest wrestling video package of all time, or at least in the conversation. So I know the person who made the original one saw Tom's, which was to me, popped me. Tom was happy about it. And then my sacrifice, and I've seen, Big AJ respond to it, so many other people. And to me, we've needed that. We've needed that positivity in pro wrestling. I said, the AJ story and all that stuff. I said, this is the nicest thing in pro wrestling this year. And for all the negativity that's out there and just infighting about ratings and how people are booked. And, oh, by the way, there's a whole, black cloud over the guy who made wrestling massive and the people that might be still connected to him. Oh, I thought the whole Costco guys thing was such a breath of fresh air. And if you just watch the father and son enjoy each other's company and perform, and the fun videos of promo videos and stuff, that's like good. Let's celebrate the fun of it a little bit more. I think we all needed that. And like I said, I hope those guys stick around because they're good for wrestling. But once again, thank you to everybody. I hope you have a nice holiday. If you're celebrating or time off or whatever, be safe out there. Enjoy all of the wrestling. And I'll be back next week to talk about wrestling even more right here on the Wrestling Mat. Have a great Thanksgiving and week, everybody.